Hi, it's me, Susan Morgan, doing a Facebook Live video, I'll place down here, for my Spotify podcast. I'm having a little bit of technical issues, but it'll all get worked out either today or the next time that I have a podcast. So I've decided I'm going to take the time to hold a monthly podcast, usually on the third Friday of each month, and the focus is going to be on UFOs, star beings, things like that. But the focus is on raising consciousness, how when we raise our consciousness, these things become more relevant. And I notice, like, if I'm looking at this, it looks like my eyes are moving like that. Let's hope it's not looking like that on Facebook Live. So I know that this is a time of disclosure, so to speak. There's a lot of people, thank you, hi Lundy, coming out on a global level, saying that they're going to talk about UFOs. And I went to the some conference in Las Vegas maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. It was actually the MUFON one, and I just thought, this is, of course, I didn't sit for every lecture by any means as a vendor there, but I noticed it was just a lot of the same old stories about, when I'm not very nice, I was saying it's a bunch of men in suits saying the same thing they've been saying all along. Like, well, back in 1962, there was a thermal image at such and such location, and we don't have a description for what it could be, and all this. Like, I want to move beyond all that. That's good, and we can know about that. But the history of our relationship, humanity's relationship with our star brothers and sisters, goes back literally to the beginning of time, and it's part of the mythology of all our cultures. And I think we need to not dumb it down. And I don't want to be insulting, but some of what's coming out in the news is just dumbing it down. Let's start with the first premise, that there could be danger if there were other beings that existed in the universe with us. If we knew that, would they come here and hurt us? Let's think about this. If they have the ability to come here and we don't have the ability to go there, then they could have hurt us long ago, right? So just everyday reasoning would say that. Let me also say, let me back up. I am located in Henderson, Nevada now, right outside of Las Vegas. I have a metaphysical store there. I'm a psychic medium. I'm a lecturer. I've written a number of books. I've lectured at many colleges. And I've been working with, at this point, I've taught thousands of people how to increase their awareness, primarily through the shamanic method of a very specific drum beat, but also through dream work. So if that's any kind of validation for my opinion, it may not be. And I'm also a lifelong contactee. I've had contact with our star brothers and sisters my entire life. Every kind of contact you can think of. So, and at some point, during these podcasts, I'll go into that more. But generally, it's been pretty positive. Not every time, but generally pretty positive. So tonight, what I want to talk about, since our world's in upheaval, I want to talk about this book. See? Dreamways of the Iroquois by Robert Moss. I cannot recommend this book enough. Robert Moss is, for those that don't know, a master dream worker who taught me and thousands of others how to work with our dreams, how to authentically work with our dreams. He taught me 20 plus years ago. And I used to host him. I lived in Connecticut, Mystic, Connecticut, for a number of years. And I hosted Robert, I think maybe for about 10 years in Connecticut. He would come to this place, this venue I would rent out called the Dragon's Egg in Ledyard, Connecticut. And he would come there once or twice a year and do these weekend workshops, powerful things. And he's an amazing teacher and an amazing person. And his writing, just his writing alone is very entertaining and very skilled. So many, many years ago, see, I don't have a plan on what I'm going to say. And so I've got to think, do I want to say this in a public way? But I think maybe I can. Many years ago, he would have prior to COVID and all, he would have these advanced groups up in northern New York, and we would do a weekend of shamanic dreaming and trying to not only improve our own lives, but maybe the lives of other people on the earth, and improve the quality of life, and just basically understand life from a different perspective than what we would normally be functioning in. It was a magical time. And so sometimes he would give us these, we would do dream theater. He'd give us these things of saying, well, we're going to act out this dream. We'd pick out the players and everyone would act it out for a couple of hours, or sometimes these were bigger reenactments. And there's power in acting out a story, especially an archetypal story. So this, which is an archetypal story in many ways, we spent the entire weekend acting out, and I was chosen to play Sky Woman, even though I did not feel up to the task at the time. This is like one of the primary people in this mythology, the Iroquois mythology. And for those who don't know, the Iroquois are a group of indigenous tribes that live in northern New York and also in the southern border of Canada, and they encompass, well, they, prior to, the white guys coming over here, they were quite a large group. And, okay. So why am I talking about all this? And by the way, I'm part Abenaki and Huron, which are a little bit east of the Iroquois, and they didn't always get along, but that is besides the point. You know, if you look into every culture, pretty much, there's the story of how did we get here? What was the beginning of man? If you look outside of the Bible, even in the Bible, actually, there's the mother, often a non-human father, and there's two sons that are born. And that includes the good or the straight son and the twisty or bad son. In the case of the Bible, right, there's Cain and Abel, and one brother slays the other one and kills him. One was very violent. With the Italians, there's the two brothers, I cannot think of what they're called, right? The sons of the wolf nurses them. In the Iroquois, they have the same thing. There were two brothers that were born. Now, before I go into this too much, I want you to think about this from the aspect of the two brothers, the good and the bad. They reside in all of us, okay? It's not them and us. It's us and us. And we make a choice every day which one we're going to be. So in this extraordinary book, there he talks about, first of all, the beginning, and I'm just going to give cliff notes on this, but this has to do with now. It has to do with how do we approach the problems of the world we live in now, especially using ancient indigenous understandings, and also what is our role in the universe? Are there other beings? And so this is going to cover all of those topics. So according to the Iroquois creation story, and I love this story, there is a woman called Sky Woman. Now, she doesn't start out with that name, but I cannot say her Indian name too easy, so I'm just going to call her Sky Woman. And she lives on the earth above the earth, okay? So this is a world that looks very much like this world, but it's not. And on that world, the people are more like gods. They have abilities that are more like gods. And she is told by her father, who was deceased and his spirit's living in a tree, that she is to go through all these trials and tribulations, but she is to stay strong and she's not to give up. And the story goes into great detail, beautiful writing about all the trials and tribulations that she went through. And she was just staying strong, knowing that was part of her fate and that she had an important mission, okay? So as I'm telling you this, I want you to think, are you going through a lot of trials and tribulations, okay? You stay strong. There's an important reason at the end of this, right? So she stays strong, and she knows that she's supposed to be mated with with a husband, and she finds this man. This man is kind of designated to her, and he's just awful, okay? He's this old grumpy man who has absolutely no interest in her. But through a series of different things, she kind of wins him over, although he's never really warm and fuzzy towards her. And they mate not in the usual way that people do, okay? But by being laying on the ground, soul to soul, the soles of their feet. And she's saying to herself, this doesn't seem right. This isn't what people are supposed to be doing, or the sky people. But she does this. And in the story, they say he breathes on her. He puts his breath on her. Now, this is important because, as we know, breath is life. And the symbolism of this is very important. So he breathes on her, and guess what happens? She becomes pregnant. And she has and basically has nothing to do with her. As she becomes pregnant, his life force diminishes and actually leaves his body. Now, the people in the world above the earth, in the sky world, they're in a panic. What happened to this, the earth man that was running the show, pretty much, the grumpy earth man? Now he's gone. The story, I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. She gets told to leave the sky world, the beautiful sky world, the only world that she's ever known. And there's a debate on how she leaves the sky world. Does she get pushed? Does she get shoved? Does she go willingly? But anyway, she comes flying through the universe, okay? So now let's look at this from another dimension, okay? This says, they didn't use the word ETs. This is an off-planet being, an extraordinary woman that got impregnated by a grumpy being up in the sky world. He's passed, and she's sent, almost like a punishment, it seems like, soaring through the universe. And she lands on the earth. Now, the earth didn't look like it does right now. So the earth, according to them, was just basically covered with water. And there was things like the beaver and different birds and ducks like that, but it was a watery surface. She has given birth to, I should have said this before, she gives birth to a daughter who at once is this beautiful baby girl, and yet when she gets pushed and she gets sent through the universe, she becomes, the baby goes back into her womb. So she comes on the earth, and the baby comes back out, and it's a long story, but basically a turtle has come, and from the turtle, she makes on his back this whole muddy area that gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and that becomes the earth. Okay. Now her daughter's called Earth Woman. So earth came from the sky, from a being from the sky. Okay. Earth Woman quickly gets pregnant. How does she get pregnant? Now this is from a cloud being. A cloud sees her, falls in love. Earth Woman's not grown, okay? These things grow quick. A cloud being sees Earth Woman, and hi, Bubba, I'm glad you're watching. And the cloud being says, well, how can I be attractive to her? He tries all these different shapes, and the shape of a man is the most appealing to her. They mate, and she becomes pregnant. And I think this is interesting because the Lakota have the thunder beings, the thunder beings, and the thunderbirds, of which I had a dream of them about a week ago. They gave me a garment and said, they held it in front of me. It was a garment of protection, which I think is interesting. Why do I need that now? Why do maybe any of us, these thunder beings, 3 of them came and gave me this garment? Anyways, she's pregnant. Guess what she has? 2 sons, right? Every culture. 2 sons. And one is the straight one, straight as a maple. He has his name. It's an Indian name. And then there's the twisted one. The twisted one tries to sneak out quickly, and be born before his other brother. But no, anyways, in the birth process and in him rushing, he ends up killing his mother. And the good brother is very upset. You have killed our mother because you were rushing to get out. You couldn't wait the 2 extra seconds. The mother goes down deep into the earth. And that is what they believe is the soul of the earth right now, is that original earth woman that gave birth to these 2 sons. So when you see the plants, the trees, and everything, this is all coming from this beautiful woman, okay, that gave birth to these 2 sons. Turtle Island. Thank you, Bubba. So this continues on. Now we've got the grandmother, Sky Woman. Now remember, she's gone through one thing after another back up in the sky world. Extraordinary challenges that she was placed through, like a warrior. And yet, so you would think that she's pretty astute. And yet, when she sees her two grandsons, the bad one says, when she says, how did my daughter get killed? The bad one says, it was him. It was the other one that did it. And she believes him. She believes him. This is a message for all of us, too. We've got to be careful who we believe. We got to, even the most astute of us have to be careful, because it's in our wiring to not always believe the truth. We can't always see with perfect clarity exactly what's happening, okay? So they grow up, they become problems. Well, the bad one becomes a problem, and that story carries on, okay? So I want you to remember, we come from the stars. We came from a star being that came on this planet, okay? It could also be called Sophia, but that's a different culture. I'm trying to keep it in the Native American way, Bubba. Thank you, though. So this leads me up to the story of Hiawatha. I have a lot of things to say about Hiawatha, but I'm trying to make this in under a half hour, and I'm already 16 minutes into it because I'm very chatty for those who know me. So, most people think of Hiawatha as the poem by Longfellow, which has nothing to do with the true Hiawatha story. I'm not even sure. I don't think anyone knows why he picked the name Hiawatha or why he went off on that spiel. It has nothing to do with the true Hiawatha story. The true Hiawatha story is an amazing story, and it's an Iroquois story. So this is about aliens as well. So there's a dark time, they call it, long, long ago, on native lands, which is right over around here, right on this continent, where people just start losing their minds. Even good people, they just start losing their minds and acting crazy. There's complete instability because there's a being called the Entangled One, Thadadeo, who is running everything and becoming eviler by the day. And he's creating all this evil and messing with these people's minds and spirits by psychic forces. This is an important thing to know, okay? It's saying that a lot of the imbalance and the dysfunction within a human being, not to take, all self-responsibility away, but a lot of this stuff has to do with psychic forces. And if we know that, we can clear it up. So anyways, this bad entangled one, who's just hungry for power and evil, just is running it. And more people every day are losing their minds. Does this remind you of anything right now? Hello, does this remind you of anything? So, but there's a solution to this, and that's why I'm talking about it. So there is a man, well anyways, first let me go back. There's a woman who has a daughter, same thing. And the daughter's almost grown up completely, and they can't stand it anymore. They cannot be around all these crazy people. It has just gotten very bad. So they go to live in the woods, and things are going pretty good, And one day, the daughter's now in her late teens. She's pregnant, and the mother gets very upset about this, very upset. How did you get pregnant? And she says, I have no idea. Have you seen a man? No. Has anybody come around us? No. The mother's actually thinking she might kill this baby because she thinks it may be something bad, like something just randomly got involved with them. But she's inspired by a spirit, the peacemaker, to say, no, she's about to have a very special son. So she has a son, he has a name. I'm going to call him the peacemaker for right now, okay? So he's a beautiful, radiant baby, and he grows very quickly. By the way, the father is a star being, okay? He comes from another system than ours. So he grows very, very fast. And he one day is building a ship. And it doesn't look like a birch bark canoe. It looks like it's white and shiny, and it can fly over the water. As a matter of fact, it can fly through the air because he's building basically what we would call a UFO or a spaceship. And he says, I have to go talk to the people, and I have to help them understand the best way to be a human being. And basically, I have to go clear up the psychic forces that are causing craziness. And I'm going to go looking for the entangled one. And everybody says, oh my God, no, not the entangled one. Oh, I'm going for the entangled one. Oops, let's hope that is still going. Hold on. All right, yep. and make sure my Spotify's going. Okay. So he's got to find somebody to help him, because one of the problems is he has 2 rows of teeth. And I don't want to get too sidetracked, but that's an interesting thing, right? They found giants in California that had been buried long, long ago. And one of the things they had was 2 rows of teeth. So that's kind of an interesting thing. And one of my cousins had 2 rows of teeth. What does that mean? So on the native side, my mother's side is native. Okay, so he says, I can't communicate very good. No one can really understand me. And he finds, it's an interesting story, but he finds the first person is a woman who's basically a whore and is fucking everybody and, and just kind of out of control, as everyone is at that time. And he spends some time with her, and she turns around. She's not interested in just being wild all the time and also letting herself be abused. And she becomes one of his first speakers. And then he goes to a few other people. These are all problematic people, and the story goes into detail of what they were doing and how he helped them become a better version of themselves. He's basically clearing their psychic field. This needs to be understood. So he's not just talking to them. He's going in and doing a little bit more than saging, okay? He's clearing the effing psychic field. So those of us that know how to do this need to keep doing that. And we need to teach more people how to clear the psychic field. Right, Bubba? I know you're watching, and thank you. So, and Bubba would know how to clear the psychic field of somebody. Okay, so he ends up going to the worst of the worst, one of the worst guys who had been a decent, honorable man, but he had lost his wife and his children, and he had turned into a cannibal. And the peacemaker went up to him. And through a series of events, he turned his mind around. He cleared him out psychically, and he became a shining one. Okay, that's what they call them. So the peacemaker and Hiawatha was his name, merged pretty much as one. Sometimes they would look like 2 people. Often they were one. So now Hiawatha, one of the worst, not as bad as the entangled one, though, decided they would go and work with people, and they did. And so Hiawatha went to all the different tribes and got them to get along. They had all been warring, and this was the beginning of the confederacy of the Iroquois nation. So, because the Iroquois kept trying to get the other tribes, the Seneca, the Mohawk, and a couple of other ones, including the Huron, of which my ancestors are. The Huron were the last to join. They didn't really want to join. But anyways, they said, we have to join. We have to. We've got all these people coming in, and they don't wish us well. So, and also it's worth noting, this is the beginning, their document, so to speak, even though it's on wampum, and how they created their own confederacy is what our own Constitution was based on, for those of you that didn't know. So they went and they made a pretty big difference. And they wanted to kill the peacemaker, and they wanted to kill Hiawatha, and they tried all different ways. But he was able to survive. He did eventually go back to his home, which is in the world above this world. But he said, if you ever need me, I'll be back again. And you just need to call my name, call it in the bushes, meaning just go into, he's associated with the white pine tree, to go to the pine tree and call his name, the peacemaker. He has a Native American name that I will not use. The Iroquois don't say his name out loud, but he's just also going to be called the peacemaker. So I'm already in 24 minutes in this, and I was going to read some of the passages from this book, which are just stunning. It's a stunning book. But I hope it inspires you to think about what are our origins, that we come from beings from a higher world. Maybe that's a possibility. And that encoded in us is the choice of the good and the bad. And every day we can make a conscious choice. This is this is one of the main things about raising consciousness. It's not about sitting on a special little pillow in a blissful state. It's about making choices. What are we going to be? What are we going to do? Years ago, and then I got to finish with the story because I'm 24 minutes into this now. Years ago, and maybe some of you have heard me tell you the story before, I was doing a dream work class in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and there was about 30 people there, most of them men. And most of them yogis. I mean, like wearing like monks type yogis. They've been to India, they're vegetarians and all that. And so one of the men, I'm having them share dreams, right? One of the men shares a dream that it was very violent. He's hurting, killing somebody, and all this. And I asked for feedback. I said, what do you think the dream means? Anybody? And nobody's saying too much. That's right, talk to the trees. Exactly. But talk to the trees and ask for help. The spirits will come through. Not only the tree spirit, but higher level spirits. Okay, so this man, I said, well, if that was my dream, the violence, I would ask what part of myself is feeling violent and wants to hurt something. Or I forget what the details were. But anyways, this man was horrified and said, violent? I would never be violent. I said, no, never. He goes, I'm a vegetarian. All I do is pray and meditate. I'm the least violent person there ever was. This dream makes no sense. I said, then you're the most dangerous person in this room right now. And the room went hush. Right. By the way, most of these people didn't come back for the next dream circle. That's all right. So I said, let me explain why you're the most dangerous. I said, because I know deep within myself, I'm a murderer, I'm a thief, I'm a whore, I'm a saint, I'm an angel, I'm everything, and I own it all. And even though I've never really hurt anybody too much, I didn't even spank my kids or anything growing up. Although I did fight with some bullies when I was younger. Boys that were picking on other people. That said, would I murder somebody? Yeah, I can think of circumstances I would murder somebody. I don't want to disown that. If that was like a card or somebody, if the great God said, I could take this ability away from you forever and ever, I'd say, oh, no, I may need that. Or a thief. Luckily, my kids never went hungry or anything. But you know what? If it was starving or being righteous, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to feed my family. So I say every day I make a choice on what I'm going to be, knowing I have the full width and breadth of it. Actually, somebody did try to rape me when I was 13, and I went to kill him. I had every intention of killing him. He had me in a car. He pushed me out of the car. I didn't even want to get out of the car. That's when I knew, when I was 13, I said, ooh, there's a part of me that is just almost crazy, okay? And I think it's probably pretty good. So it's good to recognize our dark side, all right? We may need it, right? Somebody's trying to rape you. Oh, yeah. I was trying to rip his eyes out. So, and then screaming at him to come back so I could kill him. Okay, and that's when I said, what the hell am I? Here I am, a 13-year-old, 14-year-old girl, And I said, I don't know, but I think it's a good thing. So I own who I am, and I want all those parts. And I make a conscious decision every day, as I hope you do. What am I going to be? How do I want to respond to this, any situation? When I have a full deck of cards I can play from. That makes me safe to be around. Because I'm conscious. I am not acting by default. That's what we want. That's what the story of Hiawatha is. To wake up and become conscious. What do you want to be? What kind of a person do you want to be? And when we see all these troubled people around us and troubled leaders, in the end, by the way, he got the entangled one. Oh, he went after him. By now, he's got a whole bunch of people that he's inspired and enlightened and sparked up. And the entangled one did go down. But you would think he would have destroyed him, right? No, he raised him up to one of the leaders. And the woman put a crown of deer horns on his head to represent an enlightened one, a leader. So we're not going to get anywhere if we think we're going to destroy people. We're only going to be able to do it by becoming more conscious of our decisions and recognizing all of us have good and bad, and which card do we want to play today. But also realizing so much of what is happening here is of a psychic nature. It has nothing to do with the people. So people that are vulnerable, meaning that they're not conscious, they're not making their choices, they're vulnerable for psychic forces. People that are on their game, that are making conscious decisions, are not very vulnerable. So that's it. That's my talk today about UFOs, consciousness, ETs, kind of, sort of. And I will be here the third Friday of November. and hopefully I'll be a little bit more techie with how I'm doing all this. But thank you for watching. For those of you who watched, thank you, especially Bubba. I was glad you were here, and Londi, and I will see you again. Thank you. Take care.